All right, so I have a free moment. Let's discuss the age of the universe and the shape of the Milky Way versus Anthko's theory of time. I think I want to start with raindrops. Raindrops are peculiar things that fall from the sky water, as we all know, and their shape is often associated with a drip or a teardrop. But according to NASA and NASA studies, they're much more likely to be shaped in the same manner as the top of a hamburger bun, kind of that semicircle shape with a flat side. Coincidentally, the shape of the Milky Way is very similar to that. It appears to have a flat side and a protrusion or a rounded shape on the other side, and appears to be shaped very much like NASA says the Milky Way is supposed to be shaped. Okay, well, what does that have to do with Anthko's theory of time and the age of the universe? Let's dig in, find out. So, if we remember, Anthko's theory of time says that time is based on physical principles and is composed of particles that have mass and density and properties that are associated with elasticity and surface tension and viscosity. And the universe may have been created by the supernova of a black hole, the universe as we know it. And the Milky Way and our planetary system both are within envelopes of time that are disparate with the time flows outside of those because of the density and viscosity of time within those pockets. So, if the density and viscosity of time within the Milky Way is different than the density and viscosity of time outside of the Milky Way, and if the time outside of the Milky Way is flowing fairly rapidly because it's less dense, such as water molecules in a vapor form in our atmosphere, whereas the time within the Milky Way would be metaphorically more like water vapors in liquid form falling through our atmosphere, then time would be speeding around our universe very much the same way air speeds around a water drop as it falls. Thus, the universe, the Milky Way, I apologize, the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy would have a very similar shape as a water drop. And that is actually what we see. We see that the Milky Way has a very similar shape as a water drop. And Anthko's theory of time explains that it's because the time particles, the temporal quanta within the Milky Way galaxy are much more akin to liquid water versus vapor water, which would be the temporal quanta outside of the Milky Way. Okay, so let's move on to the age of the universe. Currently, scientists say the age of the universe is somewhere in the range of, I think, like 20 billion years to 60 billion years old, somewhere in that range. Anthko's theory of time says that the age of the universe is 2.109 times 10 to the 43rd power years old. And that's a huge difference. That's like scientists saying all the water of the world is contained in one single bathtub in one person's home, and Anthko's theory of time saying, wait a second, no, you're not looking at the oceans, the lakes, the rivers, everything else. That's the disparity there between those two lengths of time, a couple billion years versus 10 to the 43rd power. And so the reason for the disparity, the reason that Anthko's theory of time says that the universe is actually 2109 with 40 zeros after it years old is because the perspective from which we humans have been measuring time. We've been measuring it from this envelope of time where time's flow is much, much slower, and everything that enters our time flow travels at that much, much slower speed. So we're calculating things using that much slower flow of time, flow rate of time. And so we come up with this equation that calculates how long time would have flowed if it had flowed consistently through our, for lack of a better term, lens, our time lens. Instead of looking at how time flows out in open space, which of course we can't reach, we're not technologically advanced enough, where time flows much, much quicker. And going back to the water drop example, the air flowing around the water drop as it reaches terminal velocity is much, much greater than any particles that actually travel through that water drop. And so the calculations that scientists are currently using could be technically correct, but using the wrong lens of data, using the lens of data of the highly viscous time solution that we're currently embedded in, and not the time solution that is flowing at a much, much higher speed around the water drop that is the Milky Way. And that's why there is such a great disparity between what Anthko's theory of time says the age of the universe is and what current modern physicists say the age of the universe is. Or actually, I shouldn't say is, I should say should be or could be, because neither one has been proven correct or disproven at this point in, for lack of better terminology, time. And I don't think the technology to actually start evaluating Anthko's theory of time will be readily available for another 100 years or so, but we can make observations around accretion disks of black holes and other phenomena that have been mentioned to kind of evaluate some of the merits of Anthko's theory of time, but it's just not there yet technologically to evaluate the main components, the very fundamental aspects, such as temporal quanta's existence. And that's why the Milky Way is a teardrop shape, or I apologize, not teardrop, a raindrop shape, is because of that flow of time around the Milky Way and the viscosity of time within the Milky Way. All right, thanks. Gotta take one more drink of my cup.